बहुत बहुत आप सबको खुश आमदीद, वेलकम। आप लोग आज आए मौलाना आज़ाद की 64th यौम वफ़ात यानी उनकी डेथ एनिवर्सरी पे जो हमने आज ये कोलोक्वियम को मुस्लिम विमेन फोरम ने मुनक़िद किया है, उसमें आप सब लोग तशरीफ़ लाए। और ये एक तरह से आपका खिराज अक़ीदत है उस आदमी के लिए कि जिन्होंने तालीम के वो पहले वजीर भी रहे, द फर्स्ट मिनिस्टर ऑफ एजुकेशन ऑफ इंडिपेंडेंट इंडिया। और ये कि व्हेन ही in 1947 he was offered any portfolio he wanted to take, because I'm sure you all know that he was in the freedom movement from the age of 16 or 17, but very much centered there in Calcutta in 1912. So one of the most tallest and most respected leaders, and he was offered every portfolio, but he said तालीम सेंट्रल है। आई विल तालीम की जो इस मुल्क को इस वक्त नीड ऑफ द आवर तालीम है, एंड ही टुक अप एजुकेशन, and thereby I've done some work on Maulana Azad. I've done some writing and so on, and I feel that he was the first visionary who spoke of right to education. And so my colleagues and I, we are calling this Maulana Azad's vision for education in these challenging times. The word challenging is itself very challenging. So I think that this work will be unraveled in the course of this colloquium. Bunyadi Talim, it was called Bunyadi Talim. There was the Vardha scheme, and Maulana Azad, along with Dr. Zakir Hussain and my father, who was Secretary Education for Maulana, under the inspiration of Mahatma Gandhi, wrote the scheme. And Maulana Azad's importance in this field is that he spoke fearlessly. He spoke anchored on his principles, did not deviate, did not even distinguish whether he was addressing Hindus or Muslims or whatever. He spoke what he believed in. So I don't want to say too much, but I would very much like to share 3 quotes of Maulana Azad with you, which will open, it will unravel the personality of this amazing man. The first quotation I want to, in terms of the challenging times and this the subject we have chosen, the first quotation I want to present before you is something he spoke, and I will do this in Urdu because he knew French, he knew Arabic, he knew Persian, and of course Urdu, and I mean those were the languages, but he never spoke in any language except Urdu, Hindi, Hindustani. So the first quotation I want to do, small one, is his address as Congress president, at the youngest Congress president in 1923, when he addressed, which he addressed a huge mammoth crowd in Delhi. And this has to do with what he called Hindu-Muslim Ittihad, unity of cause between Hindus and Muslims. And he said, and I quote, अगर एक फरिश्ता आसमान की बदलियों से उतर आए और किसी ऊंचे मकाम पर खड़े होकर ये ऐलान कर दे कि स्वराज 24 घंटे के अंदर मिल सकता है, शर्त यह है कि हिंदुस्तान हिंदू मुस्लिम इत्तेहाद से दस्तबरदार हो जाए. It should give up Hindu Muslim unity. Then I will say, मैं ये कहूंगा कि मैं स्वराज से दस्तबरदार हो जाऊंगा, मगर इससे नहीं, क्योंकि अगर स्वराज मिलने में देर हुई तो ये हिंदुस्तान का नुकसान होगा, लेकिन अगर हमारी यूनिटी जाती रही तो ये आलमे इंसानियत का नुकसान है. 1923, he spoke these lines, and I think the kinds of times we are living in this resonate. So now I will come to couple of quotations which pertain to the subject that we are going to be addressing today. The first one has to do with an address he gave in 1951 when he was addressing a conference of UNESCO. And this is basically, the humanity, the universality, the oneness of this globe. It has to do with environment, it has to do with education, it has to do with children's mind. So he says here, the terrestrial globe which nature has created as one has been divided by us for our purposes into different compartments. Not content with this, we have painted the world in different colors in order to ensure that these divisions are maintained, and demarcated them as Asia and Europe and America and Africa. When we teach a child geography, we do not start by saying that he is an inhabitant of the earth. On the contrary, we start by saying that, emphasizing the narrowness, and the idea of his membership of the human race becomes a mere abstraction. We must have new maps for children in the elementary stages in which the world will be painted in one color. We must teach her that she is a citizen of the world first and foremost, and then go on to tell her that just as a town is divided into different wards for purposes of convenience, but nevertheless the town remains one, so the world is divided into segments like Asia, America, Africa, and Europe. But such divisions do not disrupt the unity of the world. I have no doubt that geography taught in this way will, from their very childhood, establish in the minds of children a sense of belonging to the world. That was his vision, which I think is carried forward in the next quotation, which is what he said in his article called "Islam and Nationalism," which was written in about 1919. And he says the whole of mankind, humankind, belongs to one race, one family, one kinship. If in fact there is no difference of race, for all races one race, nor there is a difference of place, we all inhabit the same earth. Why is one group separated from the others? Why do members of one family and kinship live with one another like aliens? That's the second quotation. That is from his article called Islam and Nationalism. And finally, the quotation is from his address at the convocation in Patna University. And Azad says, and this I think this is my last quotation, and this again is an overarching philosophy of this man. It's the philosophy of leaders of that particular, the cohort of leaders of that time. And again, he says, and this, of course, also resonates, and in a way, it's a challenge for the kind of times that we live in, the kind of mindset, and the mindset now and the mindset then. And he says, in the advancement of nation, there is no greater hindrance than narrow-mindedness. It is our duty to keep ourselves free from this disease in this new era of independence, which has just begun. There is no other disease so dangerous for the healthy growth of national life. It makes its appearance in every field of thought and action. Like an actor, it masquerades in disguise. In the domain of religion, it appears in the form of blind faith and wants to deceive us in the name of orthodoxy. In politics, it wants to overpower us in the guise of nationalism. In learning and culture, it makes an appeal to us in the name of our nation and country. It behoves us not to be taken in by these fictitious names. So, colleagues, friends, fellow travelers, I think there is a lot to be learned. And today is the day that we look back at a man who was a visionary, at a man who was a philosopher, at one of the most important commentators and translators of the Quran, a man who looked at Islam in its most liberal sense and never hesitated to lambaste whoever placed narrow boundaries around a religion that had a universal aspect. So I thought I'll just flag few points, and I'm really very grateful because people who have my friends and colleagues who have agreed to address today's colloquium are the most distinguished group of people I have great respect for, and I think that they may not be scholars of Azad, but they have imbibed the kind of vision and the kind of philosophy and the kind of underpinnings that he believed in and he propagated all his life.